All right, guys. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys exactly how much we had to spend on Facebook to get 374 million views with the platform. And a quick hint is it's millions of dollars, as you guys can see over here. But before I tell you guys the exact amount, I think it's more important to actually understand why we would spend millions of dollars in the first place on Facebook. So the reason being is because we obviously are making more money back than what we're spending. So I want to show you guys, first off, a quick high level view of how this all comes together. So from those views, how many of those actually click? And from those people that click, how many of those people actually convert? So kind of giving you guys the high level perspective of all this. But then more importantly, I want to show you guys, how to actually scale to these types of numbers, which you can't do this alone. You need a team. So whether you're in the early stages or you're advanced and, trying to scale to millions of dollars a month in spend, I want to show you guys exactly how you can do all of this. So let's get into it. Okay, so now let's go over what we actually did with the views and how all those views actually translate into money for us. So I want to walk you guys through the process at a high level. So instead of going into the whole thing over here, let's go into an individual campaign. So as you can see with this one, we spent $1.25 million. And on that, we had to spend $21.15 for every 1,000 views. So that's what CPMs mean, every 1,000 views. So in total, that got us to around 60 million views on that 1.25 million that we spent. Now, I want to show you guys how with each stage, it goes down and down all the way to the point of purchase where it still ends up being well worth it for us to spend that 1.25 million. So on that 60 million, just to have on average, people watch 3 seconds of the video, that went all the way down to 24 million. So that means we lost more than half of the people just after the first 3 seconds of the average video that we put out there. Now, on that, to actually watch 95% of the video, so pretty much the entire video, we only had 7 million out of those 60 million views watch the entire video. Now, it keeps on going down and down, as I mentioned. So the CTR, which is the click-through rate, was only 1.28%. So out of that entire 60 million, we only had 1.28% of people even click on the link in our ad, which resulted in less than a million people, 756,000 people ending up on our website. So just to kind of tie this all back together, we spent 1.25 million here, which gave us that 60 million views. But on that 60 million views, we only got 756,000 people to actually end up on the website. Now, on those clicks, though, the question is how many people purchase. So I'm not going to tell you guys the exact number just because I know some of you guys can reverse engineer it. But I will say it's tens of thousands of people did end up purchasing on that 756,000 link clicks. And it resulted in us getting $2.5 million in purchases back. So if you do the math on that, the purchase ROAS here is a 1.99. So we'll call it a 2 return on ad spend, which means that for every dollar that we put into this 1.25 million, we were able to make $2 back, which resulted in this essentially doubling for us as a money printer to make all that money back. So now that you guys understand that, what I want to touch into is the team structure that you need to do this at a high level. So, and at the end of this, I'm going to reveal the total amount that we spent to get the 374 million views over here. But what I want you guys to understand is, whether you're first getting started or you're advanced trying to scale up to $1 million a month and spend, what are the team structures you need to allow you to accumulate this amount of views, which will then translate, hopefully, into every dollar you put in results in $2 back. And, at this level, be able to do tens of millions of dollars in sales as a result of it, which is more than any YouTuber is getting on 374 million views. I'll tell you that. So let's jump into it. All right, guys. So let's actually jump into how to scale teams to be able to actually get to 374 million views. So let's start changing from views to money now. So I want to talk about how we can actually make tens of millions of dollars back at this amount of views. So let's start from the early stages, right? So how would I set up my team if it was just me, early stages, just getting started? So really in the beginning phases, it's probably just going to be you realistically. So in this stage, you're going to wear every single hat in the ad creation process, which means you're going to be doing script writing. You're going to be reaching out to content creators to be able to get content back and setting up shoots, maybe doing shoots yourself as well. You're going to be the one who's probably doing the initial video edits. I don't recommend that, but if you have no money to your name and you're just getting started, it might just be you doing that. So that can be the early stages. I would say you can do just that to get you to 10,000 a month, potentially more. I know people that have scaled up to hundreds of thousands a month, just them doing all the ads and managing the media buying. I definitely wouldn't recommend that though. So let's just say it's just you, up to 1,000 to 10,000 a month. We're talking money now. So at that level, now the next stage that you would actually need is, let's go to like phase one, which is going to be the first position you're going to hire is going to be a video editor. And by the way, I'm just recommending from my path. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. This is just how I've done hiring and how I think you guys can try to look at it. So this is going to be stage one, and this is going to amplify your results because you're outsourcing now the video editing, which is obviously going to make your high level tasks much easier for you. So at this stage, the video editor is going to do all the video editing. You're still going to be doing all the script writing, content outreach, all of that. Now, this can probably get you to $100,000 a month. You probably will need to add another video editor in there, though, to get to that stage. So really just this squad right here, that's going to be able to get you to, for sure, $100,000 a month plus. Now, the next phase here, though, like in that $100,000 a month range is when I would then bring in someone to do the content outreach. So this would be the next thing I would hire. And when I'm looking at outsourcing different parts of the team, I really want to do it in a very strategic way where I'm not outsourcing the heart of what's making the creatives work. So to get to that level where you're now at $100,000 a month, it means that you're probably super involved. You're probably making really good scripts, and you're probably finding out how to just convert ads into winners, right? So if you were to outsource the script writing and the high level strategy aspects of your creatives, it probably would all crumble. So I would try to do, first off, video editing. It's a lower leverage task because a lot of people can do it. Now, a good video editor versus a bad video editor, there's definitely value in there. So don't get me wrong, but it's just, there's a lot of video editors, which makes it easier to outsource that task. So that's going to be something that you can do for relatively cheap, and it will save you a bunch of time. So that's why in the beginning stages, that's one of the higher leverage things to outsource. So getting a few editors on board. But then, the other thing is you're going to have to spend time reaching out to creators and figuring out how to brief creators. So getting someone to do your content outreach, at this stage will save you some time as well. So now, pretty much your role in this scenario is you're just doing the script writing. You're giving scripts over to your content outreach person. They're going to get all of the content back for you. And once you get that content back, you're going to make sure that gets to your video editors. Your video editors are going to do the edits. You're going to give them revisions and all that. Now, the next stage here, before even talking about a creative strategist or anything like that, what I would start to do is, let's duplicate this and call it a lead video editor. So this person, they're also going to do video editing for you. But what this will do is now centralize the video editing process for you. So let's go ahead and, kind of break down how this looks at this stage. And, this is probably going from 100,000 to 500,000 a month. Obviously, all these are just benchmarks. So, we can change it around, but let's just use that as a benchmark. So now the difference here is you got the content outreach person, and now you're centralizing the revisions on the video editors by getting a very high-end video editor that can also oversee and manage a lot of the video editing process that's going here. Plus, it's a third video editor because you'll probably need more output on that side. So this is probably like 100,000 to 500,000 a month. And then at this point is when I would actually look into getting a creative strategist. So let's go ahead and move this over here. Okay. And let's say we got you, and we're going to put a creative strategist here. Let's move these arrows so we can make some room up. Let's go here. We got you. Here is now the creative strategist. That's not spelled correctly, but bear with me. And then now the creative strategist is essentially doing what you were doing before, and now you're overseeing the creative strategist. So the creative strategist is now going to come in and start taking over some of the script writing process. They're going to take over the brief writing process. They're going to handle and oversee the content outreach. They're going to be responsible for managing the lead video editor, who's then going to be overseeing video editors, and the the creative strategist will also be able to oversee a lot of that as well. So this is going to be the phase that will get you to $1 million a month. You can do $1 million a month, and creative strategist is a relatively new position for me. So just in full transparency, I've scaled to $1 million a month on multiple brands with zero creative strategists. So it's not something that you need, but definitely if you want to launch multiple products and be more efficient with your creatives process, this is going to be the next stage that you need. So, a creative strategist over here. And probably at this point, you might need another editor. This is 3 editors, so it should be more than enough. But now let's actually talk about like scaling beyond $1 million a month. So for sure, you'll need another video editor here. And also something I forgot to mention. So especially if static ads is part of your process, you're going to need this position as well. So this is a graphic designer. You can use freelancers, but like I would say probably at the $500,000 a month to $1 million a month, you're going to want a graphic designer on board as well. So the creative strategist can work with the graphic designer. You probably would be working with them beforehand. So if you were working with freelancers, then maybe it's just about starting with those freelancers in those early stages and having this team set up over here. So they're obviously going to do all the graphic design work, be able to report to your creative strategist and be able to get a lot of that stuff done. Now, the next stage here is your creative strategist. If they're doing the script writing, they're probably going to start losing capacity. So the next position you're going to need to probably hire for is going to be a copywriter. So they're going to be able to support the creative strategist with all the scripting and some of the briefing so that they can focus on the just overall strategy of managing this whole team and kind of being the project manager. Also being able to do some of their own scripts, doing the research, really understanding the flow, the ideas, the angles, all of that kind of stuff. And the actual script writing part, they'll be able to hand over to a copywriter to be able to handle on that. So that's going to be kind of this next phase here for you. And the graphic designer, excuse me, I didn't even put this path. The graphic designer, if you're scaling, especially with static ads, you might need a junior designer as well beneath them. And another thing that you might need to scale is the content outreach, especially if you're reaching out to a lot of creators. Content outreach assistant is what I would say here. So below them. And this is going to be your base structure that can get you to multi-millions a month is this team structure right here. And this is how you can scale to hundreds of millions of views to tie it back to the whole concept of this video, where to walk you through kind of this structure at this phase, you're still going to be doing research and understanding the pulse of your brand. And also you're involved in other areas of the company, assumingly. So you're going to be kind of still the lead point in directing the marketing here, unless you have like a CMO in place. But if not, it's still going to be you over here. You're going to be primarily meeting just with the creative strategist who's going to be overseeing the entire creative team and department. So they're going to be the ones that are coming up with the ideas, doing research, coming up with different angles, coming up with just the overall direction of the ads that you're going, and looking over the data, understanding the connection between the media buying side and the data, and then translating that over into ideas and concepts. So that's all going to flow through the creative strategist on a week-to-week basis. Of course, you'll have some high-level insights onto that, but that's where the creative strategist can really come in and do that for you. They're going to be working then with the content outreach team. So based on the different scripts that they put together and the scripts that they start getting from the copywriter, they're going to have those briefs to then go out to the content outreach team. Content outreach is then going to go get UGC creators. They'll probably set up shoots, maybe on a monthly basis, bi-monthly basis. You can depend on what cadence you need, but they'll be doing that for you. The content outreach assistant is going to be helping obviously on the content outreach. So just, messaging a bunch of these creators, which can be very time consuming. So that's going to be the structure there where they'll get all that back. That goes back to the creative strategist, which will then go to the lead video editor. The video editor will then determine which video editor should be working on what tasks. And that can also be coordinated between the creative strategist, but that's all going to be project management stuff that's happening where all of them are going to be working on different ads and different concepts that are coming back in, getting all the edits done to go back to the creative strategist, which will then go over to the proper media buying department. And then it's really the same thing on the graphic designer side, right? So if it's static ads or different stuff that's needed there, that's going to go directly to the graphic designer. And if it's, more, then they can assign different tasks to the junior designer and so on and so forth. And this over here is going to be enough to produce, this team alone, I would say at least 100 creatives a week. So this can get you to 400 creatives a month. And then to scale, a lot of the scale can just come into adding on to these positions, right? So you could probably add another video editor here, another video editor here. So now we have this lead editor managing 5 editors. potentially even doubling up to 6 editors. So now, just from that structure, from an editing standpoint, you can now start to edit 200 ads a week if you want to scale that up. You probably would then need also, this will probably be fine. You probably will need another copywriter that can then, help to double up on the script writing process. The creative strategist should still probably be able to handle that amount, so you wouldn't need another strategist. Graphic design, you might need another junior designer. That's probably it though on this side. And then that's how you can then double up your team to be able to double up the ads and so on and so forth. Now, if you need to start scaling beyond that, you probably will need, something like this. So we'll call this creatives director, that will essentially be doing the same thing as a strategist, but now the strategist, you have a multiple strategist. You would probably be good here for a little bit more, but you might need to add some more editors or another pod of editing. So you can get creative with how you scale beyond this point, but hopefully you guys are seeing how this all comes together, of how you scale all of these teams to produce a high level of ads, and from those ads be able to get hundreds of millions of views. So that's how this all comes together from a team building standpoint that actually will allow you to scale to these types of numbers. So I wanted to keep it more on a team level. Obviously, there's a lot of strategy. You have to be doing a lot of different stuff. You still also will work with freelancers during this. Now, on my team specifically, we also have had a animator that's been full-time because we use a lot of animations in our ads. So that might be a position that you want to add in there as well. But my structure doesn't mean it's going to for sure work for your structure or how you would scale your team, but hopefully this gives you some ideas of how the team flow can come together and how you can position different roles to actually be able to scale to those numbers. So with all that being said, let's actually jump back into the Facebook ad account real quick to show you how much we were able to spend with this exact structure and how that can all come together for you. Okay, guys, to wrap it up, as you can see, we spent $8.8 million, and this is only on one of our ad accounts. We have a lot of other ad accounts that have spent very similar amounts to this, but this amount has gotten us to 374 million views, as you guys saw at the start of the video, and you can see how that also, kind of comes into effect, where at the 3-second views, that went down to 151 million. Overall click-through rate, 2.26%, which, all in all, from spending $8.8 million, we only got 8.5 million clicks throughout that time frame. But the actual numbers here, it's not going to show you the total amount, but as you can see, it's a very similar structure per campaign. So, this campaign, 2.5 million. This one, it's not tracking the actual amount on Facebook. This one, 1.4 million we did at a 2.24 return on ad spend, and so on and so forth. You can look at some of these numbers. But the point is, on this amount of money, we were able to do tens of millions of dollars back at a very high return on ad spend. So it really was just a money printer. And that's why we were willing to spend $8.8 million for that 374 million views, which the views are really only as good as the link clicks. And the link clicks are really only as good as how many conversions and purchases you make. And those purchases are really only as good as the purchase value. So everything really just comes together, obviously, as one ecosystem to spend money to make money. And that's the nature of advertising and how this all works. And now hopefully you guys understand, at a high level, how you can actually get to this amount of views and be able to spend this amount of money by having the proper team structure to allow you to scale and expand. So hopefully this video was helpful. If you guys have questions, as always, please comment below. Let me know. I'll try to spend some time answering some of those. If not, hope you guys got a lot of value and enjoyed this video.